Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dental Momentum Podcast powered by Duckett Ladd Dental CPAs and Advisors. Jared Duckett back at you with my business partner Bill Ladd. And Bill, I always start these out, a little chatter between you and I, but man, this is an exciting guest I think we've got on today. I mean, anytime you've got just I'm going to save it here, a super cool, I'm going to say nickname, but just you kind of just recreate what people call you is just awesome in my opinion. What do you think, Bill?
I think there's got to be a superhero origin story there somewhere, Jared. I mean, somebody just doesn't become, Dr. Nacho. There has to be something there. But man, I tell you what, this guy is about as dynamic as they come. He's a Philly guy, so he's going to talk fast. If you're in our part of the country, listen closely because he does talk fast, and he's going to keep us entertained, man. So super pumped to have you on, man.
I love it, guys. And so I'm going to ask you guys a question because the superhero one, and I've said it's a lot. So who's your Batman? Who do you think of as a Batman? I know mine. Who do you think of? Which movie Batman is yours? Mine is Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. So I say I was dropped in a vat of nacho cheese, like the Joker, came out as Dr. Nacho. How about you guys? Which Batman resonates most with you guys?
That's the same Batman I was going to say right there, to be honest with you. I mean, that's the first one that comes to mind. What about you, Bill?
Well, you got to go with George Clooney because that may be one of the best movies ever made is Batman and Robin. You remember the breastplates that he had on that? You know that whole story, right? Right, Dr. Nacho?
I don't know if I know it. No, I don't know.
Oh, well, okay, go look it up on the internet. It might get you not in trouble, not suitable for work, but
okay, cool.
there were some weird features to his costume, but no, you got to go with Michael Keaton. I mean, man, that's some formative years for us, bud.
And, Jack Nicholson is so good. I mean, they're making another Batman now, so I've enjoyed all of them. So I think that superhero part is funny. I started, nachos is, I think, the most beloved appetizer out there. It's like the golden retriever puppy of food. So, it brings us all together.
No, I love it. And Bill, you stole my thunder, man. I was going to introduce Dr. Nacho like that, but you got it perfect. But to intro here, we've got Dr. Paul Goodman, also known as Dr. Nacho. Multi-practice owner out in the Philadelphia area and a speaker, consultant, transition specialist. We could go on, but Dr. Nacho, appreciate you joining the show.
Oh, I love being here. I love what you guys are doing. Really enjoyed. I got to meet Bill in person when that was legal. Hopefully that's legal again someday. We can travel for CE conferences and just really admire what you guys are putting out into the dentisting space.
Yeah. So dive in, like Bill said, a superhero story or an origin story behind Nacho. You mentioned the best appetizer that you can think of. Why Dr. Nacho? Where's it come from?
Well, I always like the movies. I'm a big movie, where you see the end of the movie, then they go back. So I think that's easy. So most podcast stars will say, I went to high school, but sometimes you start now and you go back, So I'm a 42-year-old enthusiastic and exhausted dad, dentist, Dr. Nacho. I've always had this desire to bring dentists together to be nice to each other. It was authentic. My dad was a dentist. I had a chance to work with him for 11 years before he passed away. Amazing mentor, amazing dad. I never would have been a dentist without my dad, not because of the technical aspect, because he had a dental partner, just like you guys are partners. So I did not, I saw my dad's partner would cover for us when he was on vacation. I saw they discuss cases. So I always thought, this field is so challenging. You want to work with somebody else. And then when I got out into the dental world, most dentists are working by themselves. Dental school runs the dental student Hunger Games. I mean, they take all these bright, smart people, I went to Villanova, people come from all these different colleges. They put them together and it's like, okay, we want to learn about teeth and help people. And dental school is like, we're going to make you cry a lot, And I mean, it bothers me so much. I'm a huge Gary Vee fan. Why there can't be kindness. My mom was an amazing mom. She's not alive anymore, but she just always raised me with being kind to people, having friends, being friendly, helping people out. And dental school is the exact opposite of that. They create this weird competition that spills out over into private practice. And, what I'm doing now with Dental Nachos and the Facebook group and different social media platforms, doing stuff in person, doing stuff online, it came from this origin story of after dental school. I ran these study clubs in Philadelphia called the Rising Dentist Study Club. And the goal was to help dentists get together when they were younger so they wouldn't hate each other when they were older. And it really turned out to be pretty cool. It was done in Philadelphia. We would get food. I would have lectures. I had really no agenda to it. I wasn't a specialist who was looking for referrals, but I would get these companies to come and, pay for pizza and things like that. So that is where this whole thing started to get to today. After dental school, I did a multi-year general practice residency. So I had a chance to work in a hospital as a general practice resident and a chief resident and a fellow. To me, that was my magical part of learning to work with other dentists, working as part of a team, hearing feedback. Right off the bat, I try to deliver some value to you guys, and you work with dentists, but you're not dentists, right? I don't think I'm ever going to turn and become an accountant. Maybe I will one day, but I don't really know what it feels like to talk about EBITDA all the time and have a temporary EBITDA tattoo on my neck. Maybe is that what you guys have? So, what I would share is dentists are very threatened when someone brings new information to them because they don't have a residency like doctors. So doctors spend 3 to 7 years following around bigger, stronger doctors. They sit in cafeterias, they have coffee and say, my patient, Bob, this happened. They say, oh man, that happened to my patient. They share and they bond. Dental school, you get thrown out into the wild. You work in caves, right? My friend Eric Cornelius said this. And then when someone says, hey, you should do this with your business, or this worked out for me, it's very threatening instead of a learning thing. So I wanted to change that. I wanted dentists to, bring their normal person self, be open-minded to change, grow together and like each other. And that's been my theme outside of, I'm a multi-practice owner with my brother, not bragging at all. So people always think you own a lot of practices, you must have it great. It's like running a dental circus where the animals just try to slowly annoy you to death, right? Running multiple practices is tough. There's a lot of good parts to it, a lot of challenges. But what you see is you can't run multiple practices unless you know how to work with dentists. Solo practitioners work with patients. That's great. But working with dentists is its own unique thing. So I run multiple practices with my brother. I love doing that. We have specialists. I would speak on implants and practice management. I got involved with transitions. I just accumulate more jobs as I go along here. But I really enjoy I'm a big sports fan. Like this player coach that never really worked out in the NBA. I don't think that ever really worked out or in baseball, but I'm somebody who's on the inside doing this. So I bring a certain amount of authenticity because I'm just as exhausted and stressed as they are. I mean, I don't work as many days in private practice as I used to. But I'm still there managing things after COVID, dealing with patients and questions. So that's sort of the Nacho plate of Paul Goodman.
That's good stuff.
Let's get back to the actual.
Go ahead, Bill.
Let's get back on the actual name, though. I still haven't understood that. I mean, how did you come up with Dr. Nacho? I got to know that.
So there were multiple dental groups in 2017. I'm a fairly opinionated person, and I love sharing on groups. I said, I want to run my own group, and I want to talk about implants and practice management. And there was different groups out there, Dental Success, Dental Friends. I said, I want to name it something. So Mrs. Nacho and I, she loves that name. She didn't have it at the time. She helped me come up with it because I've only had like 3 jobs in my whole life. Only 3: dentist and restaurant server. I worked at a chain Mexican place when I was 19 years old, which was an awesome experience. System, but they would let you eat as many nacho chips as you wanted to. So I said, I want to name mine Dental Nachos because I'm a speaker, I'm a broker, I'm a dentist. So it was a combination of me, of a lot of different topics. And then it's really transformed into the message. Nachos are meant to be shared. Have you ever been I'm on 100% success rate with this one thing, okay? Being at a restaurant with anyone and someone saying, let's get nachos, they say, oh yeah, let's get nachos. I've never heard it turned down because people love it. You share it. It can get messy. You need friends around. I have taken down a plate by myself. I don't know if I should share that, but take friends here. So that became the theme of sharing, collaborating, different toppings. So that's really how that came. And I have Mrs. Nacho, Mary, my awesome wife. She helped me come up with that.
I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love how you get the sharing component because I never thought of it. You're right. And I agree with you. I don't think I've ever seen a person who has ever turned down a plate of nachos, because it's the best appetizer ever. You get it and you're like, you guys want some nachos? Oh yeah.
There's a great comedian. I love comedy. And he has a really funny bit about how you would take the last one from your grandmother though at the end, like that one left, the bigger one. So I just, because once people get into it, then you want more nachos. And then when it's legal, guys, you got to come to Philadelphia and go to El Vez, which does make the best plate of nachos on earth. They've been rated. One of their things is it's all one level, right? So there's been a funny joke going around Twitter saying instead of making a big plate, nachos should be the same level. And they do that. They make it on a pizza pan. And they're really fantastic. The macho nachos at El Vez in Philadelphia.
So you're making sure that one person's not grabbing all the loaded nachos, right? I mean, that's a problem. I mean, that kind of gets that Hunger Games you're talking about, right?
Exactly. I'm going to use that dental school thing. Right. That's a great one. I'm going to use that story. A bunch of chips, one topping. All you get is these random chips at the bottom. That does it right. They represent the Nacho world. And they know us now, too. They actually call us the Nacho family. So, dreams are coming true for me.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm just sitting here thinking, Bill, we used to go to San Diego quite a bit. Is San Diego where we got the awesome nacho? Was it the steak
crab
nachos?
yeah.
Crab nachos. Crab
Yeah.
nachos. Man, it's awesome. Well, hey, I want to hit on one thing. Paul, you mentioned working in caves, and dental school, doesn't create the sharing, the collaborative environment. Why? This is a big question. Why is that? I mean, what is?
I think, unfortunately, it's a lot of archaic / classic thinking that's always bothered me. My whole thing is, if I went through an experience that was difficult, I'd love to make it less difficult for someone else. Whether it's making a reservation at a restaurant, what baby things to buy. I mean, you all know those magical people who said, wow, when my first daughter was born, buy the rock and play. It was a $50 thing that saved our life. Some wonderful person said, the thing you need to put your daughter into sleep is this rock and play, not an $800 thing. So that I always want, imagine if someone said, I'm going to help you have your child sleep better. You would be like, this person is my friend. In dental school, unfortunately, they are very judgmental. I've done tons of videos on my daughter riding a bike and my 2-year-old walking. The best way to describe it is you get someone who's an expert walker like us, and then you get my 2-year-old who's a dental student, and she's trying and she trips. And instead of saying, good start, you're doing a good job, you're never going to get it. That's terrible walking, bad studies, and they just focus on failure. They focus on what goes wrong. And it's something that needs wide-scale change. I mean, as we're recording this podcast with all of these challenging things happening all over Earth in every aspect of our life, we're seeing the result of problems with archaic thinking, closed-minded thinking, and I think dental school needs to line up next to it, and some magical dental school's got to say, I need some outside help. We got to do this differently. It's hard to change because they just pass down the negativity. And I mean, every dental school, if you talk to every dentist and ask them about dental school, they're going to have some bad flashback. And the only thing that's good about it is being there with friends in a miserable thing. And they can make it different. So I would love for there to be an energy of positivity. And now dentists are going to say, does that mean just telling people something's good when it's not good? No. When my daughter comes down dressed for summer in the winter, I don't say, no problem, go outside. I say, we're going to modify what you're wearing. It's all about word choice. So it's a passion of mine to try to get this infused into the dental students so they just feel better about what they've chosen as a career.
So let's jump off there, Paul. Let's take a scenario here. Let's say you have 2 daughters, and let's say they weren't their age now. They were 18 and they were considering, or 22 and considering going to dental school. What would be your advice to them?
So I love that question. I pose it a lot, and I want to share 2 things. First, my dad was an awesome dad. He never pressured me into dentistry. I wanted to be a lawyer, doctor, or dentist. Not surprising. Gary Vee talks about this. You grew up in the 80s, lawyer, doctor, or dentist, right? George Clooney from ER, Tom Cruise from A Few Good Men, or my dad. My dad said, what's really great about what I do is I get to be my own boss. That's all he said. He didn't say, I love doing a filling. It completes me. He liked being a dentist, but he said, you like to be your own boss. And that was attractive to me. When I went to dental school, I had so many classmates who were sons and daughters of medical doctors. And they said to me on the first day, I was like, why aren't you a doctor, right? They said, because my parents said the way medicine's going is in such a bad direction, I shouldn't be a doctor. I should go to dental school. It was very common. So I said, man, these gastroenterologists and orthopedic surgeons, why are they telling their kids not, my dad never pushed me into dentistry, but he always thought it was a very good career. I never heard, there was stressful things with patients and team, but he never said, oh, it's not a good idea. And he was happy I did it. So these were doctors telling their own children, don't do what I did. I think dentistry is approaching it in this way, guys, and especially with accounting. If you can go to dental school with 0 debt, public health, military, wealthy family, that's okay. If you can have dental school paid for, I would encourage my daughters to do that if they felt some desire to do it, okay? But if they said, I want to take out $600,000 in debt, I would not encourage them to do that, because I think the horizon for dental earning power has changed for people right after dental school. And since that has remained stagnant as the debt's tripled, maybe you guys can help me with this math. It costs triple to go to my dental school 18 years later. They're not delivering a better product. I have no idea why it's triple. the government may be handing out these cotton candy loans. I'm not as knowledgeable as you guys. So that's where I'm at, Bill, is that if it can be done for no debt, military, public health, someone paying, I see the value in being a dentist. If you have to sign up for $600,000 or $700,000, I do not see that value. That helps you understand my position.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. And follow up just one comment you made. So you said the debt has tripled. What has the earnings power done? Are you stayed the same in 18 years or gone up a bit?
Fortunately for general dentists, specialists in general dentists, two very different worlds, different worlds. But let's just focus most of our conversation on general dentistry because first of all, I was paid $500 a day after I got out of dental school in 2002. I coach dentists every day on finding jobs. It's the same pay. This is my JBR. I talk about, just be nice. This is just be real, okay? Just be real is, and you guys are accountants and talking to the right people, the earning power for dentists is 1 day to 5 years out of school is the same as it was 18 years ago, and the debt's tripled. So that to me is a math problem because that impact on their life is a challenge. And also the jobs, this is the other factor, this is another JVR thing, my world. I just talked to the 10 Einstein residents. I do this every year. I teach general practice resident. I always say, I help people find jobs. And I said, hey, Kim, where do you want a job? I know where you want a job. West Virginia. She goes, no. She goes, I go, where? She goes, Philadelphia, PA. Then I say, Bob, where do you want a job? You want a job like in Nebraska, right? He goes, nah, San Francisco. So the thing is that the dynamics of the dental school classes, which I totally understand, it's not like spread out across the country and go to work. So then you have more dentists competing for the fewer jobs in these areas that people call saturated or full with dentists. So that's a secondary problem. If a young dentist said to me they were geographically flexible, I could get them a job making double what a new dentist made tomorrow. But then when I tell them it is in upstate New York, I totally understand. We were all that age once too. And this is what I say, dentistry is very stressful. There's a lot of mental stress with it. You don't have a lot of support. In a very JVR way, you tell somebody who has a difficult job starting out in their career, they got to go to a place where they have no friends or family. That is a recipe for a life disaster. So it's a really tough spot that dentistry is when someone's from an area. I mean, you guys have all kinds of clients. I have all these coaching clients. They say, come down to West Virginia. It's a great place. You can hike, you can do this. I say, okay, how'd you get there? Oh, this is where I'm from. So then I get them. I say, no problem. I can get you a practice in Philadelphia to make double. You want to come? They say, oh, no. I like West Virginia. I said, well, this is the problem. I mean, I was lucky to go back to where I grew up from. So those are the challenges that I see. And I say challenges, not impossible things for new dentists coming out of school.
So what are you thinking it's doing to the numbers of students enrolling? I mean, are we seeing a decreased number or is it pretty stable?
I think one of the challenges is always about getting the story back to the people who needs it at that moment. So many people have chosen jobs that they thought were a lot better in reality because no one really gave them the story. It could be being a chef, right? One time I said to this patient, I said, I should do what you do. Everybody likes what you do. It's awesome. She was an amazing baker in our town, amazing baker. She goes, yeah, Paul, but I get up at 3 a.m. in the morning and there's no school to train the people that I have to help. I got to teach these people to make these, and my margin for error on a kid's birthday cake is on their first birthday is nothing. So I said, you know what? You're right, Jill. That I didn't realize that. So that thing, the enrollees is still staying high because there is a, try to put this in the most diplomatic way, sometimes a superficial understanding of what it really means to be a dentist for 30 years.
Yeah, and what's interesting is think about this though, is you couple that, the debt, with coming out to not having any resources or community, plus really not having any true business acumen and understanding the business of dentistry, which is what we tend to see. Right. I think you and I've had that conversation. It's just not taught. And like I like to say, it's not taught in accounting, in an accountancy program either. It's just not taught, period. And that seems to be a big deficit. It's just going to keep kind of compounding the problems or the obstacles that these dentists are going to have to face.
Yeah, and it's such a good point, Bill. And what you guys have as accountants, people need to go to the dentist, but the government doesn't get them in trouble if they don't go to the dentist. People have to pay their taxes. So you have this thing in your field where when they turn to an accountant, and I know you guys do sophisticated stuff and it's not about taxes, but at least they turn to you with this, we talk about like rules, right? There's rules built in. You have to submit your taxes. No one has to go to a dentist. You're supposed to. So what happens is it's all about talking to people. Dentists don't learn how to communicate with people in a way to be successful in the real world. Most people don't learn this in general, but dentists' entire career and livelihood is not based on how well they can do a crown prep, not based on how well they can do a treatment plan, how well they can share the value of what they do with another person. And dental school teaches none of that. And that's another one of my challenges, because they don't teach the survival and thrival skills of the people that they're charging $600,000 to.
Yeah. Let's transition just a tad, Paul. So we're doing this series on traction. We're diving into the 6 different segments, if you will. And I know you are huge on systems, processes and procedures. You say the quote all the time: everything that matters needs a system, and everything matters. So talk a little bit, and let's go down this road. Talk a little bit, your view on systems, the true benefits that you get from systems, and kind of how to start, looking at that in order to make your practice better.
I appreciate that. I love that quote. I use it all the time because it's for any decision in life, big, small, or indifferent. Everything that matters needs a system, and everything matters. I like to start off by saying we become extremely comfortable with the stuff we do every day. And then we take it for granted that if someone doesn't do what we do, they would need a manual, a system, a checklist. For example, I consider myself to be a really good dad. I consider myself to someone who really cares about my daughters, would do anything for them, but I don't know how to get my 2-year-old ready to go away for 3 days to my sister's, not because I'm an idiot dad, but because I'm not in charge of all the outfits. So if I had to get up from this podcast and get my 2-year-old ready to go away for 3 days, I would leave her high and dry along the way, because I would try my best. But if I don't have a checklist or a system where my wife says, this Paw Patrol, not this Paw Patrol, and that's not me being like some guy from the 50s. My wife also might not be able to do something that I do all the time, because the only sane way to run a team, NBA, NFL, accounting team, dental team, parents, is to divide the jobs, right? So I have to have awareness of what my wife does. She has to have awareness of what I do. The front desk has to have awareness of what the assistant does. The assistant has to have awareness of the front. So what that means to me is, how can you get your team to have a checklist for everything that happens in the office, so that if someone's not there, they can fill in. You can always, one of the things, my other quote is always look like you know what you're doing, even when you have no idea what you're doing. So one of my things, I give this to everyone, and maybe you guys will use it. People ask you weird questions as a dentist, really weird questions, okay? Does my insurance cover veneers? Is this gonna take 5 hours? My sister had an implant and it failed. Is mine gonna fail? So when people probably ask you, what's it cost to work with you guys, right? They don't ask it like, I'm really interested. They're asking it like, it's gonna be expensive, right, guys, right? They do it to me, what's an implant cost? They don't do it like, hey, I'm interested. They do it with emotion. So when people do that, this is what I always say. This is one of my systems. That's a good question. A lot of people ask that. That's a good question. I would want to know that too. That one thing that I teach my team to say makes them likable, makes them credible, and gives their brain a chance to think. That's an example of a system and process that I want every person involved with me on Dental Nachos in my dental office to say when anyone asks a question they don't know the answer to, or even when they know the answer, to soften the answer that's coming, right? So if they say, why are implants so expensive? What do they cost? That's a good question. A lot of people ask that. The way it works is implants are an investment of $4,000, but you get to chew every day with them. See, that's like one of my systems, okay? How we clean the bathroom is a system. How we set up an operatory is a system. And I just think if we infuse this into people earlier, they would be ready. A lot of this too, you guys are the same as me, is the 1980s, they just lied to us about nutrition. I don't know why. I don't know what the reason was. My mom was a dietitian who fed us junk because she was gaslit by the nutritional industry. Remember that stuff? The Pregos, it was full of sodium, junk, and they're saying, eat this stuff, right? Now we've learned that's not how you stay healthy, right? That's not what you eat. Maybe you eat it for fun. That's kind of what I want my dental team to learn in terms of how to communicate and talk with people. And dentists often put a lot of effort into their clinical skills, very little into the business, the word, and the mind. And then you see the results, they're not in the shape that they want to be. And just like trying to stay a reasonably fit dad, it's a lifelong journey to do this.
Yeah.
First of all, I'll say back in the 80s were probably a heyday for dentists because everybody had cavities because we were all drinking Kool-Aid and
Yes.
everything else, right?
Yeah, that's a double meaning there, Bill. The Kool-Aid in both ways,
Right.
metaphorically. Yeah, you're drinking all that stuff. Very true.
Well, let me ask you this. Talk to us about level of detail because some of the things you said are such simple concepts. I mean, it's just talking points or cleaning the bathroom. I mean, when you're talking about these processes you do that are really allowing you probably to scale your time better than anything, how detailed do you go on these things? How complex
Excellent
are
point.
they?
And I always have the checklist manifesto. And actually, first of all, much less complex than people think. As long as you do this, always be explaining your why. So, for example, and Gary Vee echoes a lot of this stuff too, right? It's like the simpler things, people want to, he always talks about with diet. They want some hack, they want some thing, they want to eat this and this. He goes, you got to work out and eat less stuff, right? That's the whole thing. You got to work out, eat this stuff. If you want to do this in your office, you got to start with simple stuff, okay? Start with the thing you do every day, like setting up the operatory. So I'll say to dental assistants, it's really important that we maintain infection control and it's clean. They say, I do that, okay? I say, set up the room. Now you sit in the chair and you're the patient. And then I see them wiping stuff off. I say, nope, that's not good. Treat people how you want to be treated. Put it like you're going to be in the chair. So when you reverse engineer everything from your customer's perspective, you're going to win, but it creates a lot of work on you up front that you can then replace yourself with later. Dentists are traditional micromanagers, take on too much. My dad had this issue too, because he didn't get this training. He worked at a shoe store and he was a dentist. It was only two jobs, right? So he would just say, oh, they don't know how to take out the trash. I'll do it. But then he's stuck taking out the trash, and that's going to impact the office negatively when the dentist is organizing the recycling. So that's a good story of you want to be able to share tasks for the success. I don't even like the word delegate because it sounds like I'm delegating you. Share tasks for the success of the office, but it requires a lot of patience, requires a lot of written systems, and it requires repeating yourself over and over again. But once you do that and you get people to buy in and do it, you create a culture where it can be more fun, you can expand. Mark Costas is a great friend of mine, and he has research, dentists want to buy 4 practices. They can't even run 1 practice, so I mean, we're a family. Like the more kids around you, the more chaos. You think a dental practice as a kid, someone said they're going to open up this door and 5 of my daughter's 6-year-old friends were going to rush in. I'd be like, does anyone bring any wine here? Because I'm going to need some. And that's why Systems and Processes, Checklist Manifesto, if you read that book, listen to that book, and apply what they say, 5 to 8 points, large font, 8 things, and start with that, you'll really start to make yourself a happier and more successful dentisting leader. But it's hard work up front.
Do you recommend new dentists or maybe a dentist out there that's terrible and doesn't have processes and checklists in place to start from scratch or maybe steal from like a template or something to build off of?
It's both a good question. So templates and books are resources, and we do a lot of things. Well, a lot of times our courses, we'll put out flyers, and I tell people a flyer has never sold anyone anything. You talking about the flyer has sold them something. So you talking about this system, I tell them to observe these systems in areas that they think are fun. Elvez, Shake Shack, their gym. See what you would want to replicate as you're the patient, you're the experience. So I would say start with simple things, and also a little bit better each day makes a lot better dentistry. Like I'm sure you see it when people say, all right, guys, I haven't saved enough money. I'm going to save it all next year. It never works, right? I'm going to lose 20 pounds next month. It never works. You got to just commit to making it a little bit better each day. And if you're a new dentist out there, get 1 course, do 1 thing better, get 1 resource and see how that works, right? I mean, we all have kids, like it's the version of the kid wants the new toy and they don't play with their existing toys. And that's okay for a 5-year-old, but not necessarily a 35-year-old. So my best advice to someone's listening and stuff I've made errors on, don't put too many changes in at once. Do 1 thing, replicate it, do the next thing.
I love that. And, the reason I think I've told you this, the reason I like working with dentists is you guys are a lot like accountants and we tend to be micromanagers too. And it's funny, you can kind of see it progressing up. That's almost our Hunger game is micromanaging and the badge of honor of just killing yourself and working hard. And then we all gripe about how tired we are and how we don't ever see our family. And the funny thing is just a little bit of upfront time for someone like you who has about a million different pursuits, I mean, that's what probably in a lot of ways frees you up to have the time to do these other things that you're passionate about.
Replacing yourself. Rob Montgomery's been a great friend of mine. He said to me a few years ago, look to replace yourself, and look to replace what you do with someone else doing it wherever it's legal. So I can't have someone replace drilling on a tooth until I get an associate. But there's so many decision fatigue. Dr. Barry Polanski talked to me about that years ago. It changed my life. You think about these decisions, these micro decisions, and you just get exhausted at the end of your day. So where can you share these decisions, take things off your plate like you talked about? And that's just a lifelong journey. To me, maybe I'm a little weird, like my wife says at times, but I think that's the fun part of doing anything, just trying to do it a little bit better for yourself. No one's really tracking you. It's like if a dentist told me I make $800,000 a year, I'm like, yeah, I know dentists make $2 million a year. I also want to make $200,000. It's not a contest. It's just about you and your happiness level, which I actually want to share. This is one of the things. I have no happiness level. Happiness is made up to me. Are you happy? That question alone makes me nervous. Am I happy? Watch this. How annoyed are you each day? My goal, make people a little less annoyed each day. You lead with lead with that for dentists. Hey, dentist, we'd like to help you. Are you happy? It's such a long-term question. I say, how annoyed are you each day? Rate it 1 to 10. I'm 8 out of 10. Let's get that down to 6. The dentist will be like, I want to engage with you guys.
And don't forget how often do you cry inside, right? Isn't
yes,
that another metric?
Key performance indicator. Every dentist knows that. We all know that as parents, as business owners, but dentistry is full contact arts and crafts on a person that does not want to be there. It's very difficult. When we're doing our full contact arts and crafts and pretending everything goes right, something falls on the floor, you cry inside. You say to your assistant, I'm just going to need an extra one of those blue things. And she goes, we only have the red things. Then you cry inside. Because you're putting one of my things I say, and you guys have a lot of dentist listeners because they can use this joke. And you guys can't because your job is great in this way. I always say, hey, Bill, if you could drop your mouth off like your car, it'd be easier for both of us. So think about it. Imagine if you sat in your car while the mechanic worked on it. Their stress level would go through the roof. So that you're sitting there leaning back and the dentist is like, everything's going fine. And we're doing literal full contact arts and crafts. So all these things that you work on is so when you're in the game next to those patients, you make it as streamlined as possible.
That's a great analogy. I've never really thought of it that way, but you're exactly right. I mean, you're sitting there working while the person's right there. So the pressure that has to be on you is just extravagant.
I mean, yeah, I hear you have newfound respect. I mean, if someone came and sat next to you pre-COVID and just watched you do their taxes, it would annoy you, right? I mean, no one even knows what you guys do. You're typing away. So, but like, you're not doing it on them. But even if they just came and said, hey, Bill, I'm just going to sit here while you do my thing. Is that okay?
Actually, we have a history of doing that. I mean, we're a very innovative group. I mean, that's the H&R Block model. I mean, they'll pull it up. They even had Watson for a while. And of course, they like all the thing would be spinning and it would be kind of coming up all these deductions that really nobody, was able to apply for or whatever. And it just ended up being a big bust. But yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, you are under the gun with a patient who is uncomfortable and possibly in pain. And that's definitely not a fun position to be in, patient after patient, day after day.
Yeah, and you got to get used to it, and you got to develop your core. I always say the dentist in core is your mind, your words, your hands. And the dentists become lopsided. I always do these weights around here. They become lopsided by doing only bicep curls, and then they go to the beach. Let's just use the beach, and they say, "Look at my big biceps." And people say, "Yeah, but you don't have any leg strength or core strength. You're not going to, survive out here." So, if dentists working on their core, mind, words, hands, is the best advice I could give. Start the first day of dental school. Don't stop until you retire.
So let me pivot the conversation real quick because I think it's interesting that you work in a family practice and now you actually work with your brother. So you worked with your dad, and at some point your brother came in either before or after. I'm not sure, but
he came in after.
How does that work? How do you guys make that work?
I mean, I have my dad to thank. I mean, and my mom, and I mean, to me. And our consultant early would say, I've never seen, like a family practice like yours where you guys get along so well. I guess, and Gary Vee was talking about this on his podcast, and it doesn't mean things go perfectly. It doesn't mean we don't have friction, but just how much we cared about each other and loved each other was more important than anything. There was nothing that could happen in my dental office, fee for service versus PPO, use this mirror, that would really impact my relationship with my dad in a long-term way. Now, that being said, I mean, I'm a perfect husband. We never fight, but I don't know if you've ever gotten an argument with your wife, maybe not, but like you get in arguments with your wife because you're playing this game together of life. So when you're with your dad and your brother, I mean, what you could care about each other, but you're playing this dentistry game. So there's friction, there's arguments, but we just always had a foundation of our relationships are more important than this dental thing. And that to me, I was so lucky to work with my dad for 11 years. So he passed away. I feel so fortunate because we got to hang out every single day. And it does bother me that a lot of family relationships don't work out. And I will tell you guys, and I told this as a consultant, if a family relationship does not work out, 90% of the time, responsibility of the parent, not the child. 90% of the time, it's the parent not willing to change. And I don't judge them, right? Like, but it's usually like my dad was awesome. Whatever you want to do, Paul, with changes, let's look at them. It didn't mean he said buy this, but we bought other practices. The way he did it was perfect. He wasn't threatened. He didn't think it has to be my way. 9 out of 10 times, fault is judgmental. It's on the parent side of the fence because
I think
they're willing to change.
There's statistics out there that in small business that's a family dynasty type business, very few of them make it past generation 2. And a lot of them die in the early stages of generation 2. You know, during the transition, it just wasn't done well or it wasn't done right. So let me ask you this, because you guys have the luxury of it's your father, now it's your brother, you love them, you have a bond, you've known them forever, you guys probably speak the same language. Put yourself in the shoes of somebody who has a partner who's not a family member. And, you know, we've been a partner, Jared and I have been a part of a group where the partners were it was a lot of friction and very little communication. We've been part of great partnerships like we have now. You know, what's your advice to those people out there who are trying to do this in a multi-doctor practice and make sure it works and that the patients are taken care of and the staff, you know, feels safe and comfortable going to work?
Here's a couple exercises, really great questions. Rob Montgomery's helped me with some of this. So let's say you have me and I'm trying to bring in a partner who's younger than me, who's I'm not related to. Okay. What I'd say is let's go out to dinner and split it. Okay. I'm going to set that up. Right. I'm not taking care of dinner. Let's go out to dinner and talk and split it. Because here's why. It's an exercise. I'm not Charles Schwab who does that thing where the waiter messes up the order. I think it's kind of coolish, but you know, I'm not like, it's not by, I say, let's go out to dinner. We're going to split it. Okay. And then I start to order expensive stuff. Say, oh, you want to split like shrimp cocktail? Let's get like this $100 bottle of wine. And then I want to see how they react. Okay. Because that reaction will give you a lot of insight into making joint financial decisions together, because a lot of stuff in dentistry is expensive. And if you're reluctant to invest and spend money, I think that's one of the biggest killers of partnerships, not being on the same page with money. And I'm sure this also happens in marriages too, but especially there. Secondly, I'd also do it's really not a test, but discussions about how you're going to manage the team. Because you know, you had friends growing up. My parents were fairly on the same page, but their dad was really hard, their mom was easy. And they know if they went to the mom would let them get away with anything, the dad wouldn't. That cannot be the way that happens. You don't have to be exactly the same, but my brother and I are very much on the same page. We have different personalities. So those are the two things: how you handle money, how you handle team. Dentistry, that's easy. Dentistry is easy. How you handle money, how you handle team. So to have exercises like that, and dentists talk like, you like crowns, I like crowns. All dentists like crowns. That's not going to help you. How they handle joint money decisions and how you're going to manage that team, because that's what you're going to do every single day. My dad and his partner actually had fairly different practice philosophies and got along well for 40 years. The way they treated patients, it was in the same restaurant, but my dad was much more systematic, recommended more things. His partner kind of was different. You know, he still was productive. That was not really their friction when they had friction. Managing team was friction. And they were really actually always on the same page about spending money. That's probably why it lasted 40 years.
Yeah, so you're saying that partners can have different views on certain things, but those are the two things that you want to make sure you align 100%
they got to
on.
support each other on it, right? Sometimes, you know, I have a 6-year-old, she's very crafty. She's like, Mom said I can have ice cream. I'm like, seems like Mom would say that, but the way your face looks makes me feel like Mom didn't say it. And then she's not there, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So that's the team, right? Oh, Dr. Smith said I could have off July 4th. On its face, that sounds reasonable. But the way you're bringing this to me makes me feel like maybe you're trying, so those are the challenging things out there.
Yeah, it's funny. We see that in accounting. We see it in dentistry. A lot of times it seems like you maybe have two doctors. They're almost acting like two sole proprietors.
Right.
Just have the same shingle, maybe share some overhead. And, it just makes me think that when you have a cohesive team, even though you may have a little bit different philosophies here or there, but like you and your brother, I mean, you can really do great things when you're kind of all rowing in the same direction, I would think.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it. I mean, you could use the NBA when they started putting superstars together. You could use any company. No one can build anything that's of massive, not even value in terms of cost, but you can't do it on your own. It's just not scalable. So even in the same way, if you want to buy a second practice, I just had an awesome dentist on today. I want to introduce her to you guys. She bought a second practice, awesome dentist. The associate wasn't a good fit. Now I'm trying to help her get a dentist, but she said, I want someone who's interested in partnership. I told her that's a big decision. I'm going to give her some of these tips because, I mean, it's easier to get out of a marriage than a dental partnership. I mean, just be real. You got friends who've been married 3 times, right? That seems easy. You're in, you're out. Partners, that changes your life much more different, because your child is the dental practice and it's a physical thing. People get divorced. One's in Napa drinking wine. That sounds relaxing. The other one's in Miami having mojitos. That sounds relaxing. So your marriage broke up. I mean, that's very sad, but that doesn't have the same financial impact as partnerships in dentistry. But that being said, guys, I wish there were more partnerships in dentistry. I wish there were more groups.
Yeah, no, the partnership, I mean, whatever partner you bring on is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make, hands down.
Yeah.
So hit on this, Paul. Let's end on, we talked about nachos at the beginning, talked about Dr. Nacho, and we got Dental Nachos. Explain to the viewers, most everybody probably, you're just so big in the dental community now with Dental Nachos. Talk about what is Dental Nachos, and maybe pre-COVID too, before, when it was legal to see each other face to face.
Yeah. I mean, so I love getting this question, and I've used a lot of different, I was like, with patients, when they ask me about their teeth, I've related to cars. Cars last 7 to 15 years, you have maintenance. So I always like to share something new. So if someone said, who are you as Dr. Nacho? And you only could use 4 words. These 4 words is what I use. Mr. Rogers of dentistry. Mr. Rogers of dentistry. Mr. Rogers is one of the most amazing people to have ever been on planet Earth. I mean, when you go back and watch those shows, he is talking about the same stuff that's happening now. His show was not for kids. I mean, it was for kids and to help them. They talked about gun control. They talked about treating people kindly. It is truly a show that is timeless. And what he was able to do in a fun way to get this out and have these tough conversations is what I want to do for dentistry, because using that example, I want dentists to feel better about themselves. It would be awesome if they made more money. That's not the problem. It would be awesome if they could be fancier dentists. That's not the problem. Their morale's the problem. But what Dental Nachos is, it's for all dentists and humans. It's for the hygienist. It's for the industry professionals like you. It's for anyone who's connected to this world by birth, by profession, by the office. Because, I grew up with an awesome mom. We had 3 kids, fairly crazy. 3 kids were in our household. If your mom is not happy, nothing goes well, right? I mean, this is a tale as old as time. I'm sure in the caves, the mom cave woman was not happy because they're probably doing the toughest work at the end of the day. They are. The dentist has the most intensity, which is what we call stress, right? I don't say stress, it's negative intensity. So if the dentist does not have their intensity managed, it trickles down to the team, the patients, people who live in the same house as the dentist's children. So I could create this Dental Nachos world to make people feel better. That's what I want to do. However, I use this example. If you tell dentists, you want to be part of something, make you feel better, they'll say, I don't need to feel better. Some lean forward and are like, yes, I need to feel better. So then I kind of use this pill inside the ice cream. So we had this dog, awesome golden retriever. My dad would put the heartworm pill in. I put ice cream. As a kid, I remember being afraid, like dogs were going to bite my dad, but she wasn't going to bite my dad because she wanted that ice cream, right? So she didn't know she ate the pill. Whenever the pill was put in her dish, she'd spit it out, it'd be on the floor. So I, in the most fun way, have put ice cream around this pill with CE, learning about implants, making better decisions. So I'm sure personal trainers do this all. If somebody wants to come in and have better abs, but they really need to be more flexible. The personal trainer says, no problem, we'll work on those abs. But as they're doing it, they're trying to help them as a whole body person. Dental Nachos is to help dentists at every age and stage be more successful, less annoyed. The Facebook group's totally free. I'm in Philadelphia. The only thing we can do, guys, is go to parks, right? I go to parks, and parks, the best example is Rittenhouse Square Park. When you guys come, it's a free park. You walk around, 0 charge, right? But in this park, There are guidelines, right? You walk in. You cannot just play the bagpipes because you feel like it. They will kick you out of the free part. Then on some days, I don't know if you guys have this where you are. Have you ever had the farmer's market where they sell stuff in the park?
Yeah.
I always like those days. They have beer, they have cheese, they have other stuff. So Dental Nachos has key resources to sponsors like you guys, which are assets to the community, which you could be a equipment company. And most dentists say, thank you for sharing that I can get these IPAs. Thank you for sharing. I can get a billing person. And I'm so proud to have created this, and I'm still creating it. But unfortunately, and kind of good way to wrap up, I have a few more minutes, but like you guys talk about money all the time. And I think the main problem is dental school doesn't talk about money in a way that's healthy. They don't talk about how to talk to the patient about money. They don't talk about how to spend the money. I mean, if I could say if someone just turned this on, it was to turn off in 60 seconds, put $10,000 of consulting into your budget every year and spend it no matter what. 1 year, spend it on team. 1 year, spend it on something else. Dental school makes you feel like you shouldn't do this, but you should, because that's it. So the whole conversation about how money works in a dental office is the problem. And that's what I really try to help dentists with, is to figure this out. Because if you don't figure it out, you can have a long career filled with stress. You could have multiple marriages. And we've gotten some good results. Most people say, and I love this, my age say, I wish this was around when I was in dental school. These bads don't realize how, as much as the debt, they don't know how lucky they are. And love this. I learned too, to turn on their phone, ask a question to 26,000 people. And I try hard to be, my wife's a kindergarten teacher. Like, I have a real thing about, you can't attack people. You can break down their argument. I'll be the one who stands up and says, you don't have to tell that other dentist that was the stupidest case you've ever seen in life, right? You can tell them you would have done it differently. Some people get it, and some people leave the park, but that's basically my best sort of rundown on what we do.
That is absolutely perfect. I mean, absolutely perfect. You guys can tell that Dr. Nacho's got a passion for sure about helping dentists just get better in general and enjoying their job and enjoying, making their life better. So, Dr. Paul, how can people get in contact with you?
Awesome. They can reach out to us at dentalnachos.com. I love my phone. I have a text community, so anyone can text Nachos to 215-543-6454. If you text Nachos to 215-543-6454, we'll immediately give you a free CE prize. Everyone likes prizes. So you just visit dentalnachos.com or text me. It's really me on this phone in this community. I did a cool thing yesterday. I said, ask me anything you want about implants. 10 people came, asked me questions. I think the more ABC is what I talk about. Always be connecting. And I think there's never more important time than this to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, awesome community, guys. Go check out Dental Nachos. Go check out Dr. Nacho, Paul Goodman. Paul, we appreciate you having us on the show, or appreciate you coming on the show. As I say at the end of every episode, guys, we'll do the double S, double R, go out there and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Go ahead and share the podcast. Somebody who's interested. I mean, every single dentist out there could benefit from what you just said to us, Dr. Nacho. I mean, there's so much good stuff in there. If not, just go join Dental Nachos. Go out there and rate the podcast as well. And then leave a review for us, guys. I mean, we're trying to get really, really good guests on. I don't know if we're going to be able to get anybody better than Dr. Nacho himself, but just super content. And Dr. Nacho, appreciate you again. Bill, appreciate you as always. And we'll talk to everybody soon. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.